There
Well,
you
hello.
are.
Hey, good to see you. We have some breaking news, I understand. Thanks for jumping on.
Well, it's breaking news, but it's about the least surprising news we've gotten in months or years.
It's
Um,
reminds me of the expression, I can't remember who said it, W.C. Fields, maybe somebody like, it took me 20 years to become an overnight success.
yeah, well, and I'm still waiting for mine, but yeah, uh, Apollo Global, which owns Careerbuilder, is selling off Broadbean. That's about as surprising as, well, I won't go there politically. It's just $52 million. They say it generates about 35 million a year in revenue at substantial margins. 30 million is subscription revenue. And for those who don't know, Broadbean is a job distribution and ATS CRM tie-in intermediary platform. They take jobs and move them around, and have about 3,000 customers, 300 employees, operations in the UK, which provides the bulk of the revenue, Europe, the US, and Australia, and founded in 2001. And they will now be part of Veritone, which owns PandoLogic. PandoLogic, once upon a time, Real Match. And they bought PandoLogic in September 2021 for 150 million in cash, earnout, and stock. So this one is a much smaller sale. Comes 2 weeks after Careerbuilder sold all of its international businesses, except India, which is tiny, to Carriera in Greece. And so there's not much of Careerbuilder left except for careerbuilder.com.
Yeah, kind of the core North American business, right? Like
Yep.
Career Builder is both Canada and the US.
Yeah, but I haven't
Well,
looked at
mostly
their
US.
yeah, I
It's like
haven't looked at their traffic in Canada, but on a scale of 1 to 10, I suspect it's a 1 or a 2.
sure,
I
sure.
mean,
So
Indeed just dominates in Canada.
yeah,
There are lots of other little and niche and geo boards in Canada,
yeah,
but Career Builder in Canada, I haven't looked, so I shouldn't say this, but there's not much there.
yeah.
Really,
Whenever I'm talking to Canadians, like we had Serge Boudreau from Career Beacon, and they're very dominant in Atlantic Canada, the far eastern provinces, and I don't think he mentioned Career Builder at all.
eh,
So
look, unfortunately, sadly, nobody mentions Career Builder much anymore. I remember, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I remember when Matt Ferguson took over as
yeah,
CEO, and he said he had a two-word goal: beat Monster, and he did. And Career Builder became the number one job board in the U.S. for a time until they lost out to Indeed and LinkedIn, and succession of owners failed to invest. We had a great interview with the last week with the new owner slash CEO, et cetera, of the international assets. And he very,
mhm.
very delicately said that when Apollo Global took over, and I could look up the exact quote, it's in our article in AIM Group Marketplaces report this week. The exact quote was, when Apollo Global took over, the motivate or the direction changed and investment in technology stopped.
Sure.
He was being polite about it, but essentially he said they just stopped investing in technology. And so, and facing the threat from Indeed and from LinkedIn and from others, they were up for sale and in a downward spiral. Usually, private equity owners try to increase the value of the business and grow it and then spin it off or sell it. Um, Apollo Global hasn't done that. On the other hand, I was told even 4 or 5 years ago that they had already made 5x to 7x on their investment,
Hmm.
and this probably brings it to 10x, or will when it closes. It's supposed to close late in Q2 or early Q3, and CareerBuilder is still an operating business with estimated revenues around 200 million. So assume 15 to 20% margin, and it's probably higher than that. And they're throwing off 30, 40 million in cash each year. They got a new CEO last week in anticipation of this sale, no doubt, as well as the Carriera sale.
Mm.
They laid off anywhere from 15 to 60% of their employees. So it's a much smaller, I can't say tiny because 200 million is not a tiny company, but it's a much, much, much smaller company.
Yeah.
Chris Russell, our friend, speculated that ZipRecruiter should buy him.
Yeah, Chris Russell is the founder of RecTech Media, serial entrepreneur, likes to call himself the mad scientist of recruiting, and it's interesting speculation. So, what are your thoughts about his? I don't know if you call it a prediction. I think the way I read it was more of if I was running ZipRecruiter, this is what I would do. It was more in that line. What are your thoughts?
It catapults them forward. I don't know, as a publicly traded company, that they can justify it.
Uh-huh.
It seems to me, Veritone said that the acquisition of Broadbean would immediately be accretive to earnings.
Meaning
Meaning
for the
it's making money,
non-financial people, it means
right?
that it's going to increase your profits. It's
Increase
not
their
going to
right,
So, in other words, Broadbean is making money, not just
right,
revenue, but it's profitable.
right, for
Yeah,
sure. And they said high margin, or they said,
yeah,
what's the exact phrase they use? Um, Attractive margins.
yeah. So,
So
when I was reading the breaking news announcement that came out in the AIM Group's recruitment intelligence report that you co-wrote with Greg Spencer and
Ben
um,
Salisbury.
okay, thank you. A couple of additional things jumped out at me. So one is, it looked to me, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the way that the acquisition was done on Veritone's end is that Broadbean is going to be a sister company of PandoLogic. So they'll both be owned by Veritone, and they'll be both subsidiaries. It's not that Broadbean becomes part of PandoLogic, but they become affiliated, owned by the same parent. Is that your
Yes,
understanding?
although they said they're creating a new subsidiary of Veritone called Veritone
HR services or something?
HR Services, and the yeah, integrated and rebranded as Veritone HR Solutions, and they're going to be integrated.
Yeah,
So they've already been working together. They've already had some integrations. It's not a stretch to figure that they're going to be putting them together.
yeah,
Alex Forleys of Broadbean will become president of the new company. Terry Baker, whom you and I both know, is leaving the company to become a special advisor, whatever that means.
yeah,
Sounds like he's been in the business 30 plus years.
absolutely.
And he probably took home a nice chunk with 6 zeros behind it after the sale of PandoLogic to Veritone, and probably will ride off either into the sunset, or more likely, as with our friend Dan Finnegan, he will probably resurface once again doing something else in the recruitment field, just because I don't think Terry is the retiring kind. Although he
Yeah,
has two sons who are doctors, at least two, maybe three, and three other kids, all of whom are well launched. So Terry may be ready to move back to San Diego permanently. He did move back, lose the apartment in New York, and quit the commute and put his feet up a little bit, or
Yeah,
become an advisor to companies.
yeah,
You
I
know,
think I think I think his job title, I think from Amer Group's reporting, is like independent advisor or something along those lines, and
yeah,
that's great. I mean, if all he does over the coming months is smooth the transition, introduce the new leadership to key players on his team, customers, partners, or whatever, and then is consulted from time to time because he's got a wealth of knowledge, like you said, over decades. And
yep,
there will be, business is a little bit like Groundhog Day. There's very little that's new. It's the same sorts of issues tend to resurface. And those who are 22 often hit that issue for the first time. Those who are 62 have probably seen the same thing 4 different times.
yep.
So,
And he's very AI centric, so that
yeah.
is not a bad way to be. We're already at 11 minutes, so we need
Yeah.
to wrap up fairly soon.
Yep.
Career Builder, what's left, probably be sold in the next 12 to 18 months, maybe even sooner.
Mm.
It's the fifth sale, I think, by Apollo Global. They've done very, very well for themselves. And Broadbean will soldier on under new ownership, and I'm sure will become much bigger and more powerful with more investment.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, as the founder of a job board, I think that the deal for Veritone makes a ton of sense. Broadbean is, my perception is much stronger in Europe than it is in the US. We almost never hear of clients talking about distributing jobs through Broadbean in the US. We often hear PandoLogic, and the opposite is true in Europe. And maybe it's just the skewed customers we have, but I could see this really accelerating programmatic in Europe because smaller employers, medium-sized employers that really like and rely on Broadbean now, I think very soon are going to have a really nice integrated programmatic option. And I know Broadbean already has that, but I think it'll be better integrated now that they're part of the same family with Pando.
Well,
So,
we will see.
yep,
I'm glad to do this quick one. We have
yep,
another one coming up very soon.
yep,
Talk about Google Jobs and
yep.
what they're doing. And I will see you later.
Massive changes there. We got a couple of Google for Jobs related episodes over the next couple of days. So, Peter, good to see you. Thank you for the reporting.
Take care.